If you're someone who's really suffering at the moment with those hooks in your golf game, as a right-handed player, right to left, finishing well left of target, or for left-handed players, finishing well right of target, then you want to be watching this video until the very end, because we're going to be diving into 3 top fundamentals that you want to be checking in before we actually make our golf swing to ensure we're giving ourselves the best possible chance of stopping this from taking place, but also a key swing fall that I see time and time again that is the reason why you'll never stop hooking your irons if you keep doing this. And this thing is what I'm going to show you after we've covered the fundamentals. So for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. My name is Harry, PGA Professional, transforming golfers worldwide on Skillist. So make sure you drop us a follow on the Skillist app if you're looking for more personalised coaching to suit your needs. And be sure to drop a comment down below with a tips or drills video you'd like me to cover in a future one. So a lot of golfers, when they have a look at the hook, whether it's with the irons or driver, they always think they are swinging too much from in to out. But what a lot of golfers need to understand is the main influencer of where the golf ball travels. And this main influencer isn't the actual swing path itself, so where the direction of the club is traveling on. And usually we would tend to see it go in to out, of course, but we can still hit a hook, pretty much so a hook, if we're swinging out to in. It'd be more like a pull hook. And let me just explain this, because the key influencer to stopping those hooks or slices in any golfer's game is all down to what the club face does at impact. So let's just say, if we've got this, yes, in to out swing path, okay, imagine the ball's here and the in to out swing path is taking place. But if our club face is pointing further to the right than where the path is traveling, we're still going to push it out to the right. Yes, if the club face at impact is pointing more to the left of where the club is swinging, we are going to be seeing those shots that curve from right to left. Now, the main tendency a lot of golfers do is, as soon as they try and make this change and try and stop those hooks taking place, they'll try and work on a more out to in swing path. Now, you are right, however, if the club face is going to continue being closed to where your swing path is traveling, even if it's an out to in swing path and that club face is pointing further left than where the path is going, it's still going to cause the shots to go way to the left. So for those of you golfers, and this is bringing in the first fundamental, who believe that they need to be aiming more to the left to try and encourage this more out to in swing path, but then they find they tend to get this double cross action where the golf ball travels straight left or further left, we want to be ensuring that we're standing nice and straight in relation to where the target line is. So what I like to do is, if I'm suffering with those right to left golf shots, those hooks in my golf game, which can happen for me just because of the way I release the club a bit too early and close the club face down, I like to just ensure that I'm taking my club across the shoulders, or you can use an alignment stick doing this as well, and just checking my feet are nice and straight, knees are parallel to that alignment on the ground, your knees, your hips and shoulders are all parallel to one another, facing directly down the target line. And you can also use an alignment stick if you want to align this up directly in line with your target, and just simply place your feet on that line. Then you've got your club as another sort of matcher, so you can check that these two are parallel to one another with the knees, hips, shoulders, and that then brings us into fundamental number 2, which is the posture. Okay, so I see quite a lot of golfers, and someone in particular came to see me last week with a very much so upright posture position. Now, what do I mean by this? Let me just take this alignment stick away, and I'm just going to set up like they did. So what we noticed was a lot of knee flexion, which caused our spine angle to tilt more, so it's more vertical in relation to where the ground is, and that causes our hands to push out in front of us. Well, if we make our swing back and forth, you can see the hands are fairly close to us, just simply because our knees are too flexed and our spine angle's too vertical to the ground. So what we'll do is we'll push the hands out, and straight away we've caused a lot of wrist action on the way back. So what we noticed in my student's swing last week was, as he came back down, we ended up trying to get this wrist action coming back into play to recover from this action here, and opening the club face on the way back. We're always going to try and recover and close that face using those wrists, reacting to this motion on the takeaway to hit that golf ball very straight. But again, it's very hard to time this motion here. It's important that we control the club face like this through impact instead. And we're going to be talking about that in a bit more detail later on. So for the posture routine, I gave my student, I'm going to give you guys this as well, just so you can take this on board and practice this for your own game, because this will benefit anyone, is if you take your club and place it across the shoulders with your feet slightly wider than shoulder width apart. Just to begin with, you're literally going to flex the knees a touch like so, and you can see I'm stood in a nice straight line here. I've not done any tilting just yet. I'm just flexing the knees ever so slightly. And then for stage 2, all you're going to do is feel like you're tilting from the hips, imagining that someone's pushing their hand against your belt buckle or belly button, and it's going to force your hips to go backwards as your chest begins to go more over towards the ball. When I say over towards the ball, I don't mean like this here. It's literally just tilting from the hips, allowing the buttocks and the hips to move away, your pelvis to move away as well, as your chest and upper body tilts towards that golf ball. And when I do this, if I was to place a club directly in the middle of my foot here, you can see my hip is directly in line with the middle of the foot. Or when I do this tilt, my hips move away from that line and my upper chest moves towards the ball. So my hips move away, chest moves closer. And that's to help you keep in balance. So practice that part a couple of times until you're happy with that. And the key checkpoint for this is just ensuring you go low enough that you feel a slight little stretch. It shouldn't hurt, but a slight little stretch in your lower back. And then from that position, you can simply take the club out in front of you, keeping the hands nice and relaxed and straight with the arms, dropping them down. And now we should notice that the arms are hanging more vertical to the ground. There's loads of room in between my knees here and my hips, you can see, so that makes it so much easier to take the club back on a one-piece takeaway. And to learn a little bit more about that, I'm not going to cover that in too much detail in this video, but you can check it out in the top right hand corner of the screen. But I will be placing this at the very end of the video as well, so you may as well wait until the end. So that's just helping me just create more room on the way back and through to limit this wrist rotation that takes place from a poor setup and posture position. And that brings us in the final fundamental that we want to be ensuring we're getting correct, and that is the grip. Now you'll notice that I haven't got a glove on, and unfortunately I've completely forgot my glove. I've left it at home, very gutted, but I'm going to be talking to you about the gloves later on that I use because they are fantastic. But if we place our lead hand on just to begin with, what we tend to notice that when, and this is what my student also did last week when he came to see me for a lesson, was he took his trail hand out in front and brought it very much so underneath, so that the thumb, his right thumb, was pretty much on the side of the grip like this here. Now if I was to swing back and forth doing this motion here, it's very easy for me again to close that club face down. So we've got to promote a lot of shaft lean, like we noticed someone like Dustin Johnson do out on tour with his strong grip to square up that club face. Now if you can do that, amazing, but it's very, very difficult to do. So what I would advise instead is taking the club and making sure first off that your lead hand is on the club like so, with your lead thumb on the trail side of the grip, just going down the center point. So there's a center point ever so slightly on the right hand side for me being a right-handed player, but that's the trail side. And then we take the trail hand and place it on using the fingers from this point here, and that's going to allow me now to wrap my hand completely over so that my right palm, my trail palm, is covering the lead thumb just like this here. And you can see now my right thumb is down the lead side of the grip, so my trail thumb down the lead side of the grip like so, and that helps us create this V shape that we're always looking for with the grip. So now I've got my lead hand on, I've got my trail hand on, and you can see that that's just going to make things easier for me to control that release on the way through and square up the face. I can guarantee if you try those two moves with that trail hand of yours and placing that thumb literally like this here, you'll notice it's much easier to over rotate the club face on the way through, as opposed to really getting that thumb over like so and getting the palm to cover your other thumb. It's much easier to keep that club face nice and square. Again, controlling that club face is the key element. So just before I bring in the swing fault, I'd like to introduce the sponsors to the channel, being GX Golf. They are a golf glove manufacturer producing high quality golf gloves for a very much so fraction of the price. You can get them in bundle packages of 3, 6 and 9, and you can save quite a lot of money as well using the discount code below Harry10. I've been using these gloves for the last couple of months now, and I'm very gutted I forgot mine today, but I'm going to be using them definitely for the rest of the season because I'm really impressed with the quality, but also the price point. It's much cheaper, great value for money. I'd highly recommend checking them out and using the link in the description below. So the swing fault that we notice with golfers when they're trying to stop this hook is that they use their arms too much in that downswing as opposed to the lower body. So it's all to do with the downswing movement. So as I mentioned at the very start of the video, we noticed that golfers will try and stop this in to out swing path to prevent those hooks from happening in their game by getting very much so over the top, like so, trying to get this out to in swing path. But the problem with this is when we use our arms a lot in the golf swing, and if we start this what we call transition from backswing to downswing using the arms, it's very easy for that club head to overtake. If we haven't got the room created by the lower body, so when I say room, if we haven't got the body rotating out the way enough to keep this club face nice and square, we're going to end up stalling the lower body on the way down and then getting what we call a little bit stuck, a little bit trapped in this position here as the shaft comes parallel to the ground. And what will happen is we'll slow down and allow that club face to release through, getting that early release. And this is my tendency in my golf game. Sometimes I get that early release just from not rotating quick enough to try and get that club face to stay square. I sometimes slow down accidentally and end up flipping the hands over like so. So just to begin with, we want to be just making sure that once we get to the very top of our swing, we're ensuring that we're creating a lot of rotation in the downswing. Now, just to kick things off with this, the first feel I like to have with this is that once I reach the very top of my swing here, my lead hip is going to begin moving away from the golf ball. So you can see here the way I've just reacted and started that movement to begin that downswing. I've not shifted this hip forward because then we get a little bit trapped again and have to flip it on the way through. I've started with this lead hip moving away from the golf ball. So it's almost as if, like the posture routine that we mentioned earlier in the video, someone's pushing against this left hip of yours away from the golf ball. And you can see how much this opens up my hips on the downswing, and this allows me to get a really nice setting of the club as well, just to make things even easier. So getting the club, swinging to the top, really firing that hip on the way through, pushing those hips back is going to help you create the room required to then keep those hands ahead of the club face and keep it nice and square. But if you're struggling to find a feel for this, I'd highly recommend giving this training aid a try, and it's called the True Turn Pro. And this is a great device for anyone who's looking for more rotation in that golf swing. For those of you who are suffering with the hooks, this will work great for you. And you simply open it up and place it either side like so underneath your armpits and have your hands so that the palms are pointing away from you. And you just simply rotate up to the top and then rotate on the way through. So you're just swinging back and forth, but I can really feel my upper body now as well, really stretching on the way back to encourage a full turn and then swinging on the way through as well, getting this lead hip firing away from the golf ball, but really opening up my shoulders. And when we open up the shoulders, it's going to be easier to obviously improve the path, but also control that club face angle. So this just makes it a little bit easier for you to find that feel, really promote that extra bit of stretch on the way back and on the way through to improve that rotation in your golf swing. So the main one with this is encouraging more rotation. But it's all good encouraging more rotation, but if you're so used to releasing the hands on the way through, it's still going to be a little bit difficult for you to control what that club face does. So we've ensured that we're rotating the body in the correct manner on the way through, but how can we ensure that those hands are going to stay ahead of the club face? Once the club face overtakes the hands, the club face is going to close down. So what you can do with the club is simply grip it right in the middle of the shaft, making your way up to the top of the swing. And the key to this is making some quick swings and trying to stop this butt end of the club, the grip end, from touching the lead side of you. And you can see here, as I get this rotation, this lead hip, I'm rotating it out the way, and you can see here on the way through, I'm ensuring that that butt end of the club is pointing away from me, left of me here, as opposed to hitting the body like so. As we hit the body like this here, you can see that club face is rotating and closing down. So as long as we're firing that lead hip out the way, away from the golf ball, as opposed to shifting forwards, and really getting this butt end of the club to work left and avoid you hitting the body, that's going to make it easier to keep the hands, give you the feel of keeping those hands ahead of the club face. But if you're looking for something to use, a nice training aid to use just to help you find that feel when hitting some shots doing this, you can actually use the tour rotation stick, which is this device here, and you place it on the end of the club like this, and it almost acts as the butt end of the club that we've just introduced there with that simple drill, just taking the hands right in the middle of the club. Your aim is to get that stick working left, again pointing towards the wall behind you, without allowing this rotation stick to touch you. And you can see here, once it touches you, we get that early release on the way through. Now for full swings, if you do try this training aid, you will find that now and again it will hit the body. But if it's around this point here, and that's fine, we want the club to eventually release from this point here, as opposed to at the moment of impact. At the moment of impact, it's going to close the club face down. So hip working out the way, hitting a shot using this here, and you can see there, that's gone dead straight. That was a little bit open there, which is great. That's what we want to help you stop those hooks for good in your golf game. So finishing off with a full swing with those two feels, hands staying ahead of the club face, rotating left, getting that left hip working out the way. Let's see what I can do. And look at that nice little phase, starting slightly left of target because of the out to win swing path that I'm producing in my golf game at the moment. But because I really fired this left hip away from the golf ball and kept those hands working left ahead of that club face, that's allowed me to keep the club face a little bit open in relation to the path and start seeing a left to right shot, a fade take place in my golf game. So if you've enjoyed this video, I highly recommend checking out these two videos over here. The top one talking to you in a little bit more detail about the takeaway, as I mentioned earlier, but the bottom one, a great drill that you can utilize in your game for the downswing. I'm going to be introducing my very first downswing course very, very soon, so I highly recommend staying tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.